What do you mean a shipment that size took 3 days to pack? Travis Morgan leaned back in his chair, holding the phone to his ear as he stared at the spreadsheet on his laptop. The numbers didn't lie. Productivity at his packaging plant in Ohio had dropped nearly 30% in the past 4 months. Probably just a slow crew that day, the district manager answered. We've had staffing issues. There's been some turnover. Travis didn't respond right away. He'd bought the packaging company 7 years ago, when it was on the brink of collapse. 12 plants across the Midwest now carried his name well, not his real name. The front-facing brand was intentionally generic, something customers wouldn't associate with one person. He liked it that way. But lately, he'd noticed a growing gap between what his managers were reporting and the numbers he was seeing. He closed his laptop. Don't shuffle people around, he said. I'll be visiting Plant 9 next week. Quietly. The manager hesitated. You mean Undercover? Travis hung up. A week later, Travis stepped into the break room of Plant 9 wearing a faded hoodie, steel-toe boots, and a name badge that read Tom. His beard was thicker, his normally sharp haircut grown shaggy under a trucker hat. He'd never met the floor staff. Here most hires came through temp agencies or local recruiters. That was by design. He wanted fresh eyes on the floor. Hey, you the new guy? A tall woman with dark curls under her hard hat stepped forward. Her name tag read Brielle. Yeah, just starting. They told me to check in with me. I'm training you. She tossed him a pair of gloves and pointed to the machines lining the wall. We're 2 people short today, and we've still got to get the baker order wrapped and loaded by 3. Why are you 2 short? Travis asked casually. 2 guys quit last week. One said his back was messed up. The other just never came back. She didn't seem bitter, just tired. Travis followed her onto the line. Cardboard boxes flew down chutes, taped, labeled, and stacked. It was fast, loud, and hot. The crew chief, a stocky man named Ray, moved like a machine, lifting, wrapping, tossing pallets onto forklifts like he was made of steel. But something was off. Travis noticed it halfway through a shift. Every time Ray thought no one was watching, he leaned hard against a table, curled his fingers around his ribs, and winced. You good, man? Travis asked during a quick water break. Ray looked up, surprised. Yeah. Why? You're limping a bit. Ray grunted. Old football injury. No big deal. But Travis had seen the guy drop a pallet jack mid-load and grip his side like he'd been stabbed. That night, Travis sat in his hotel room, icing his own wrist from a minor strain and thinking about Ray. He opened the employee files. Ray Dorsey, a crew chief for 8 years. 0 sick days in the last 12 months. Perfect attendance. No complaints. But no recent physical either. Something didn't add up. The next morning, Travis arrived early. Brielle was already there, rubbing her temples as she stared at a broken shrink-wrap machine. They said they'd fix it last week, she muttered. Now we've got one for the whole floor. Ray walked in 10 minutes late, stiff and pale. Travis watched him bend slowly to pick up gloves, wincing again. Ray, Brielle said softly. You okay? Are you fine? She studied him. You're sweating through your shirt, and it's not even hot yet. I said I'm fine. He turned away. But halfway through the shift, it happened. Ray was stacking boxes when he suddenly dropped to one knee, clutching his side. Everyone froze. Travis was the first to reach him. Ray. Don't call anyone, Ray gasped. I'm okay. Just give me a second. You're not okay, Brielle said, kneeling beside him. What's going on? Ray looked around, breathing hard, then whispered. 3 cracked ribs. Happened 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks. Travis blinked. I didn't want to lose the job. We're short-staffed. If I take time off, the line slows down. Management warned me last year. Said if I miss too much, they'll move someone else up. Who said that? Brielle asked, her voice rising. Manager. Carter. Travis stood slowly, his jaw clenched. Ray looked up at him, pain flickering in his eyes. Don't report me. Please. I can work. No, you can't, Travis said quietly. And you shouldn't have to. Ray's face twisted. He looked more ashamed than hurt. Brielle helped him sit up as someone called for a first aid kit. Travis backed away, heart pounding. This was worse than numbers not adding up. This was a man hiding broken ribs to keep his job. And it wasn't just Ray. It was the culture. Something here was broken. And he was going to fix it. The warehouse was quieter the next day. Ray hadn't come back. No one said anything directly, but the crew moved slower, more cautiously. The second stretch wrap machine was still broken, and now the most experienced person on the floor was gone. Travis felt the difference immediately. Boxes backed up on the conveyor, stacks forming uneven towers, tension building by the hour. Brielle barely looked up when he joined her at the line. Grab a scanner, she said, voice thinner than before. We're behind already. He picked one up, but before he could start, a man in a fitted button-down and polished boots strode onto the floor taller than everyone else, eyes surveying the crew like he was counting parts. Morning, team, he said, drawing the attention of half the floor. I'm just here to observe. Don't mind me. He didn't introduce himself, but Travis had seen the face in a few quarterly reports. Carter. The manager Ray had mentioned. Carter folded his arms and leaned against a post, watching as the line crawled forward. A worker at Station 3 dropped a box. Carter didn't flinch, but his voice cut across the machines. Keep it moving, Hector. This isn't a coffee shop. Brielle tensed beside Travis, but kept taping. Does he do that a lot? Travis asked, keeping his eyes on the box in front of him. He stops by when things lag, she said, low and tight. Watches. Comments. Never actually helps. Hector bent to pick up the box. Carter turned and started toward the far end of the floor, calling out more remarks as he walked. Don't double wrap. It's wasteful. Conveyors running slow, someone adjust it. That stack's leaning. Fix it before OSHA does. Not once did he lift a hand to assist. After 20 minutes, Carter stopped near Brielle and Travis. His gaze settled on Travis. You're new. Travis nodded. You're slow. Travis didn't answer. Carter turned to Brielle. He's not trained yet. He's on his second day. I'm showing him. Then show faster. Carter walked off. Travis kept his hands moving, but his mind was already spinning. No inquiriment. No solutions. Just pressure and blame. It wasn't leadership, it was surveillance. At lunch, the crew scattered across the break room. A few sat in silence, eating quickly. A radio played static between songs. Travis sat beside Brielle again. He always like that? He asked quietly. She nodded once. Worse when corporate's watching. Has anyone filed anything? She looked at him, and for the first time, there was a flicker of something behind her tired eyes, disbelief, maybe, or resignation. File it to who? HR's in Chicago. They don't answer the phone unless someone quits or sues. What about the plant supervisor? Left 4 weeks ago. Carter's been running things himself. Said they weren't replacing him until next quarter. It hit Travis then this wasn't just a bad week or a staffing fluke. It was a system running without breaks. A manager unchecked, a crew unsupported, and no oversight in sight. After lunch, the line jammed. A box caught on the edge of a misaligned belt, tipping sideways and dragging another half-dozen behind it. The conveyor stopped. Everyone froze. Carter appeared instantly. Who was working Station 6? No one answered. He stepped forward. I asked a question. Who touched 6 last? A younger worker in a navy hoodie raised her hand hesitantly. Carter pointed. Out. She blinked. What? Out. Go home. You're done for the day. I didn't. Box jammed on your watch. That costs us time and money. Come back when you can focus. She stood, stunned, then walked out without another word. Travis turned to Brielle. What was her name?
Dev, she said.
She's 19. Good kid.
First job.
Does that happen a lot? Only when he's trying to scare the rest of us. Travis watched the door swing shut behind Dev. There hadn't even been a warning. The rest of the shift passed in a haze. Travis's hands moved, but his eyes were everywhere. He watched Hector limp slightly on his left leg, favoring an old injury, maybe. He saw Brielle pause to massage her shoulder when she thought no one was looking. He spotted two workers whispering near the supply closet, one of them wiping her face with a sleeve of her shirt. Nothing about this place was sustainable. And yet, the numbers he'd been seeing, the drop in output, the spike in turnover, it all made sense now. People were breaking here. Quietly. One by one. The next morning, Travis arrived earlier than usual. Shift hadn't started yet, but the lights were on. He slipped through the back and made his way toward the office upstairs, the one Carter used. He'd memorized the floor plan years ago, but he'd never walked these halls in boots. The door was half open. Carter sat at the desk, scrolling through something on his computer. Office isn't open yet, Carter said without turning. I know. Carter looked up, confused. You're the new guy. Not exactly. Travis stepped inside and closed the door behind him. You want to tell me why you're running this plant like it's a punishment detail? Carter stood slowly. Excuse me? You humiliated a 19-year-old for a conveyor jam. You've got a crew chief with cracked ribs afraid to take time off. And your shift lead's doing 3 jobs while your machines break down around her.
Carter's face changed.
Who are you? Travis reached into his back pocket and handed over his ID. Carter stared at it. This is a joke. It's not. You're Travis Morgan? I am. Silence. Travis stepped forward. Ray covered for 2 weeks because he thought missing a shift would get him replaced.
You let that happen.
You fostered that fear. I didn't tell him to hide an injury. You created the conditions where he felt he had to. Carter's voice sharpened. You don't understand what it's like to run short-staffed. Every day I'm putting out fires that start before I even walk in the door. So, you put them out by threatening teenagers and ignoring safety? I maintain output. That's my job. No, your job is to protect this company's people and product. And you're failing both. Carter's shoulders stiffened. You came here in disguise and now you want to lecture me on protocol? I came here because I no longer trusted secondhand reports. And what I've seen is a manager who uses fear instead of leadership. Carter didn't respond. Travis opened the office door. You're relieved. Effective immediately. You can't, I can. And I just did. He walked out, leaving Carter frozen behind his desk. Downstairs, the crew was gathering. Shift would start soon. Travis stepped onto the floor and removed his hat. I need everyone's attention. Heads turned. Conversation stopped. My name is Travis Morgan. I own this company. A stunned silence swept through the crew. I've spent the last few days working alongside you because I wanted to see what this plant is really like. And I've seen enough to know that things are not okay here. He let that settle. Ray won't be punished for taking medical leave. In fact, he'll be paid for the time he already missed. Dev is welcome back on the next shift, with full pay for yesterday. Carter will not be returning. No one spoke, but the room felt different already. Lighter. A current of disbelief mixed with cautious hope. Travis continued. I'm bringing in an interim supervisor from another plant, someone I trust. We're also dispatching a repair team for the machines. And starting next week, we're hiring a second shift crew to reduce the load on all of you. A few people exchanged glances. One man rubbed his eyes. I'll be around all day. My office is open. Any of you can come talk to me.
No filters.
No fear. He stepped back. Brielle approached slowly. Her voice was quiet. You really didn't know? I didn't. Not until I saw it myself. She nodded. Then I'm glad you came. He looked around the floor at the people who kept the machines running, the orders filled, the company afloat. They weren't numbers on a spreadsheet. They were the business. And he wouldn't forget that again. Word spread quickly, though no one said much out loud. It was in the way people moved with less hesitation, with a little more purpose. Like they were still waiting for the catch, but hoping it wouldn't come. By noon, 2 corporate HR reps arrived unannounced, dispatched from the Chicago office. They weren't here to observe, they were here to listen. Travis had called them in directly that morning with a short message. No summaries. No filters. Talk to the crew face to face. They set up in the old supervisor's office, and Brielle was the first to go in. Travis didn't ask what she said when she came out, he just nodded as she passed him and returned to the line. He stayed on the floor most of the day, not to monitor but to be visible. He unpacked shipments, ran the belt, and helped reorganize a cluttered tool cart that had clearly been neglected for weeks. He didn't talk much, but when he did, it was to ask questions that hadn't been asked before. What's the worst part of the late shift? Which station overheats fastest? Who's the one person here you trust the most? When he asked Hector that last one, the man didn't hesitate. Ray. Travis nodded. He'll be back. When he's ready. Hector didn't say anything else. Just tightened a strap on a pallet and kept working. Midway through the afternoon, a woman approached him near the loading dock. She looked unsure whether she should speak. Her name tag said Lena. She was short, with a firm posture and a streak of gray in her otherwise jet black hair. I'm the one who trained Ray. Back when this plant first reopened under the new name, she said. Travis paused what he was doing. Really? He didn't know a thing about industrial packaging. He'd done warehouse work, but that was it. I showed him how to use the clamp wrap, how to read the freight sheets, how to deal with the loaders when they're late. He picked it all up fast. How long have you been here? 6 years. Almost 7. And how many times have you been asked about the plant's operations by management? She gave a dry laugh. You're the first. He leaned against the wall beside her. What would you do differently? She didn't answer right away. Then she said, stop treating people like parts. This place runs on hands and backs, and no one wants to be worn out and tossed.
He didn't need to ask more.
The message was clear. Later that day, a rental van pulled up new equipment parts and a temporary wrap station that had been overnight. A tech crew followed, wearing safety vests and rolling tool cases. They went to work immediately. No one had expected them, but no one complained. The crew watched as bolts were replaced, belts adjusted, and the loudest machine was finally silenced with a new tension modulator. Travis didn't make an announcement about it. He just nodded at the tech foreman and kept working beside the crew. By late afternoon, a familiar figure stepped through the rear entrance. Ray, slower than usual, his posture stiff, but upright. He wore a brace under his shirt, and his hand clutched a note from his doctor. Brielle crossed the floor before anyone else saw him, grabbing him gently by the arm. You shouldn't be on your feet, she said, voice low but firm. I'm not here to work, he replied. I just wanted to see it. See if it was real. It is, Travis said from behind them. Ray turned. I didn't think you'd still be here. I'm not leaving until this place runs the way it's supposed to. Ray looked around. It's quieter. New parts. Better scheduling. Fewer people afraid to speak up. Ray exhaled slowly. Feels like someone opened a window. Travis stepped forward. Until you're cleared to return, you're on paid leave. And when you're ready, we'll talk about what you want. Not just what position you held before. Ray's expression didn't change much, but his nod was the most honest thing Travis had seen all day. He turned and left without fanfare. That night, Travis met with the interim supervisor in one of the unused conference rooms upstairs. Her name was Nadia, and she'd managed Plant 4 for over 3 years without a single safety citation or a late order. He handed her a folder of notes. "You'll have full authority here while we rebuild the leadership structure. But I want you to do one thing differently than the last guy." "What's that?" "Walk the floor every day. No clipboard. No headset.
Just talk to people."
She glanced through the notes as she spoke. "You want me to keep this plant running or turn it into a therapy group?" "I want both. Because if one fails, the other does too." She gave a short nod. "Then I'll need better intake procedures. These temp hires show up with no prep. I've already flagged for that didn't know how to operate a lifter. You'll get a training budget. Design it from scratch. Pull anyone from any plant you need." She didn't thank him. She just closed the folder and said, "I'll need 2 weeks. Then I'll give you a real plan." He left her to it. In the parking lot, Travis leaned against his truck, watching the last shift clock out.
A few nodded to him as they passed.
One waved. No one asked questions. But something was different. A younger worker he hadn't spoken to yet paused nearby. He looked barely out of high school, with headphones hanging around his neck and a rolled-up hoodie stuffed into his backpack strap. "You're the guy, right?" Travis looked over. "What guy?" "The one who owns all this. Who pretended to be." "Tom." Travis nodded once. The kid hesitated. "My uncle worked here last year. Said it was rough. Said not to bother applying." "And you did anyway?"
"Didn't have a choice. But
it's better now. People are talking. And no one's yelling." Travis didn't respond, but he let the silence stretch. The kid adjusted his backpack. "I'm gonna stick around. See how far it goes." He walked off. Travis watched the lights inside dim, one by one. Not everything was fixed. Not yet. The schedules were still tight, the crew still short. But the silence that followed wasn't heavy anymore. It was calm. Tomorrow would be harder. The next week harder still. But the foundation had shifted. And this time, he wasn't relying on reports to tell him how it was going. He'd seen it. Heard it. Felt it in the grip of a man hiding broken ribs and the voice of a woman who'd trained half the crew without ever being asked for input. He wasn't just rebuilding a plant. He was rebuilding trust. One shift at a time. 2 weeks later, the midday sun cast hard shadows across the gravel lot as a delivery truck backed up to Bay 3. The hum of the new conveyor system inside echoed faintly through the open bay doors. The air smelled of oil and fresh paint, remnants of the overhaul that had kept the plant running after hours for the last 10 nights. Travis stood near the loading dock with Nadia, watching as a pallet jack rolled past them, loaded with sealed boxes labeled for a client on the East Coast. A clipboard rested under Nadia's arm, covered in notes written in dense, slanted handwriting. "You'll want to see these," she said, handing him a folded sheet. "Output's up 18%. But more importantly, no one's missed a shift out of fear. The absences we've had were covered properly. People are pacing themselves." Travis scanned the page. "How's the rotation plan working?" "Still rough. We don't have enough cross-trained workers yet, so we're cycling people a bit slower than ideal. But the idea is sticking Brielle's leading 2-person rotations for the lift line. She's got a good read on who can handle what." He nodded, then looked across the floor. The hum of machinery was steady now. No more screeching belts. The replacement wrap station, installed 5 days ago, was functioning without issue. Workers moved with rhythm, not panic. He spotted Dev near the back, scanning boxes with a handheld device. Her movements were confident, methodical. She'd returned quietly the day after Carter was removed. No announcement. No attention. Just picked up her scanner and asked what needed doing. Travis stepped away from the dock and made his way toward the break area. The door was propped open with a crate of shrink wrap rolls. Inside, Lena sat with 2 other workers at the back table, a half-eaten sandwich in front of her. She looked up but didn't stand. "You're not here to make another speech, are you?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "No speeches. Just checking in," Travis replied, pulling up a chair. One of the others, a man in his 40s with a grease-stained cap and a faded band logo on his shirt, took a bite of a sandwich and said, "I've been here 6 years. First time I've seen a floor boss actually get replaced for how they treated us." Travis didn't respond right away. He studied the man's face, the deep-set fatigue that still lingered beneath his words. "He should have been gone earlier," Travis said finally. Lena leaned back. "We've had worse. Just never had anyone around who cared enough to look." He met her eyes. "That's changing." Someone walked in and dropped a stack of printed safety guidelines on the counter. A new hire glanced over them, then asked if anyone knew what PPE was required for the upper racks. Without hesitation, Lena pointed to the chart on the wall and answered with specific instructions. The conversation lasted less than a minute, but Travis watched it closely. People were becoming resources for each other. That was new. Back on the floor, Nadia was speaking with a group near the freight elevator. She waved him over. "This is Diego," she said, nodding to a man in a navy vest. "He's from Plant 4. Agreed to come down and train loaders on the new lift equipment." Diego stuck out a hand. "I've done a lot of startups. This one's rough around the edges, but the crew's sharp. They just need consistency." Travis shook his hand. "Give them that and they'll outperform expectations." Diego grinned. "They're already halfway there." As Diego moved off to start his walkthrough, Travis turned to Nadia. "What about hiring?" "We've filled 7 of the 10 open roles. The last 3 are in final interviews. I'm being selective, not just on skills, on attitude. No one gets through if they think managing people means pushing them until they break." "Good." She pulled out her phone and scrolled through a few photos. "This is from last night. Brielle ran a line while I was off-site. Not only did she hit quota, she reorganized the pallet staging to reduce the turn radius for the lifters. Cut down on wasted steps." Travis studied the image. The floor was clear, pallets stacked cleanly. The lighting above the workstations had been upgraded to another small change, with a big impact. "Is she ready for more?" he asked. "She's already doing more. Just not calling it that." "Then make it official." Nadia nodded. "I'll prep the paperwork. Shift lead title, bump in pay, staggered hours to keep her from burning out." Travis paused. "Make sure she agrees to it. Don't assume. She's earned the right to say no." That night, as the second shift clocked in, Travis stayed. He didn't need to, but he wasn't ready to walk away just yet. He helped restock the supply bins, reviewed the new intake forms in the office, and walked the exterior of the building with the maintenance lead to flag areas for repair. The north side drain pipe was still cracked. A small thing, but it mattered. By the time he returned to the floor, Ray had arrived. He wasn't in uniform, just jeans and a flannel shirt. He moved carefully, but with more ease than before. He approached Travis near the belt line, where boxes were passing in a steady flow. "I've got clearance to lift light loads next week," Ray said. "Doctor's note says I'm healing ahead of schedule." "Glad to hear it." Ray looked around. "This place feels different." "It is." He hesitated. "I've been thinking. When I come back, I don't want to go back to the exact same job. Not because I can't, but because I've seen what happens when people like me get stuck in the same role forever. We get used up." Travis folded his arms. "What do you want?" "I want to train. I want to teach people how to work safe, how to spot the signs. I want to make sure nobody else hides a fracture just to keep their badge." Travis nodded once. "We'll build that role. You'll report directly to Nadia. You'll help design the safety training program plant-wide." Ray blinked. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. You've got first-hand knowledge most people only read in manuals. That's valuable." Ray extended his hand. Travis took it. As they shook, Brielle approached, holding a clipboard. "We've got a backup at Station 2. Sensors misreading the box weight." "I'll take it," Ray said, stepping away without hesitation. "Easy," Brielle said, raising a hand. "Let me walk you through it first." They disappeared toward the machine together. Travis remained where he was, arms at his sides, watching as the team around him adjusted, adapted, and moved forward. There was no applause. No dramatic moment of closure. Just people doing their jobs in a place that no longer punished them for showing up human. As he turned to leave, he passed the wall where the old safety poster had been torn off 3 weeks earlier. In its place was a dry erase board labeled Crew Notes. Someone had written in thick marker, "Speak up. Fix it. Help each other." No one had signed it. They didn't need to.